Enslavement? Really? Yes, I was shocked as well with this word. And indeed, we tend to avoid the big words, thinking it's too much. And by doing so, dismissing and repressing the nature, the depth, and the amplitude of what is present within us, and we bury it deeper in our unconscious, from where its energy will come out in all sorts of unconscious and chaotic and really toxic projections. But in truth, we carry within us, mostly unconsciously, the energetic imprint of all our experiences in this lifetime, in our past lives, as well as our ancestors, until we attend to clearing and healing what needs to be, so we can live our life now instead of being subject to the past so much, enslaved by the past. Now, let me tell you the story of how I found out recently about the insidious presence of detrimental toxic energy of enslavement consciously present within me. And when I was confronted with it, I was pushed to drop everything, to make it a priority to attend to it and be done with it, because enslavement, that's something I certainly choose out of me, out of my energy, out of my mind, out of my experience. Now, before I go into the story, I need to mention that I am blessed to enjoy a lot of freedom in my life. It is very precious to me. And yes, I've put a lot of effort, mostly internally, to get myself to that level of freedom, blessings, as well as owning my sovereignty. So what happened one fine morning is that somehow I was inspired to change that day one element of my daily practice, which is that usually I proceed to an emotional review, check in within for the presence of emotions that call for my attention, and I attend to them before getting into my day. So I avoid bringing these emotions into the day, but instead I gather their insights, their guidance and wisdom, and then I clear the residue. This is a process you might have experienced me guiding you through. And yes, it's a core element of my morning practice. Well, that morning, instead of proceeding in that way, my higher self guided me to review a number of fundamental values that are dear to my heart and that I choose to live by and to stand for. So I went ahead with it, scanning for this and that value of mine. And when I got to freedom, there was a discomfort in my body, not quite a pain at that moment, but significant enough that I would notice it. So I did, and put it on the side to come back to it and attend to it. And I continue with scanning my values. And again, when I got to sovereignty, there was a discomfort. It even made me cough for a moment, a cough coming from my heart. My heart was coughing about sovereignty as if it was choked and letting me know very clearly there's something going on there. So I put it on the side as well and complete my scanning and then return to take care of these two. Now, freedom and sovereignty obviously are very closely related. So that really struck me, and I asked, what's going on there? And I heard it loud and clear, enslavement. And that shook me and shocked me. But right away, I knew and I felt that it was totally true. There was something going on within me about enslavement, and it was calling my attention. Now, because it looked like a big chunk, which it is, And because I knew right away that it is not literal enslavement in this lifetime, but something more complex and profound and also ancient, I could feel something massive, really, and very intricate. So I put it aside, thinking I will need time to dive into this. And I put it off for later in the day. And indeed, in the next hour or so, I got to notice the many insidious ways in which I was being enslaved, mainly mental enslavement, enslavement by thoughts and beliefs that are not mine, that I chose years ago to detach and to unplug from. And yet, ever since then, there's been something sticky about it, which suddenly presented itself as enslavement to a whole paradigms of thought and beliefs. And I also realized there was attachments that I had cleared many times, cords cut, unplugged, dissolved, removed, whatever you can do with cords. I did it. And yet again, something holding me there. And I was shown suddenly how this was enslavement again, emotional enslavement, enslavement by relationships, as well as enslavement to older versions of myself that wouldn't let me grow. Sometime later that day, as hours were passing, it was feeling more and more sickening. The more I gained awareness of enslavement present within me. But I received a wonderful news, an invitation to a project that is typically a dream project for me. Very creative, very much of service to the highest good of all I'm looking for, really. But I noticed as soon as I started considering this project and my role in it, there was growing pain in my chest. And when I turned my attention to it, I felt how the pain was in my rib cage, in the bones of my ribs. And with that realization, I heard loud and clear, rib cage, cage, enslavement. It felt like this project meant enslavement to me, enslavement to the clock, enslavement to obligation, enslavement to who knows what, when indeed this project is totally up to me. I have total freedom of choice. But instead of feeling inspired and uplifting, it felt stressful with this perception of enslavement, these expectations that had no foundation in reality. They were my projections, really. And the sharp pain in my chest and my rib cage was my body screaming really for liberation from this enslavement energy running within me. There was no delaying for another hour. It had to be done right now, so I did it, clearing the karmic entanglements of enslavement. And with that, I found instant relief. And in the following days, I experienced many radical shifts in my energy, in my trajectory as well. There was a whole new level of freedom and sovereignty that I had accessed through this clearing, this liberation, a level I had not even been aware that I was missing. There's a whole new degree of intrinsic freedom and unalterable sovereignty that has settled within my being. And with that, I was called, now you go offer it to others. And of course, that's very much how it works for me. I go through experiences of healing and liberation myself, and then I am to offer to others, to you. Now, yes, about the project. I hear you asking about the project. The project is alive and growing and exciting, and I'm totally inspired. And you will hear from me about it soon. And I believe we'll all agree that it would have been a shame to let it be lost to karmic entanglements of enslavement. Now, one thing I realized also very quickly before I even proceeded to clearing those karmic entanglements of enslavement. And by the way, if you're not sure about karmic entanglements or really you have no clue what this is all about, I've made a video for you, Karmic Entanglements Demystified. I'll put the link in the comments of this video, and I invite you to have a look. It makes it very clear and makes a lot of sense. So, yes, what I realize is the truth behind that current experience I was having in a very visceral way, the rib cage, the truth of so many lifetimes, and maybe for you as well, so many lifetimes in which I may have been enslaved possibly literally as a slave, enslaved by work, enslaved by marriage, forced or arranged, enslaved by ideology, religion, politics. And how many of my ancestors on my genealogical maternal paternal lines have had those traumatic experiences? And what imprint it has left that has been carried over to me? Not to mention, because it has to be faced and confronted as well. So yes, actually, I will mention it. All the instances in which I may have been the one who enslaved others, and maybe my ancestors did. Maybe as a slave owner, a slave merchant, or in any way profiting of slavery, slave trade, any form of enslavement of others with authority, control, manipulation. So I measure the amplitude of this phenomenon of enslavement that just the day before, if you would have asked me, I would have said I have nothing to do with it. But here it was, coming from the depth of my being, my shadow, my past, possibly very ancient past, my lineages, all this tremendous chunk of human experience and energy and imprints. It was sickening, so disempowering. I had to be confronted to the magnitude of it. And yes, it was necessary to face it and deal with it, to take care of it so that now I can be there for you. And together we take a stand, doing our share of liberation work for ourselves, for our lineages, for the whole of humanity. If you feel triggered, moved, uncomfortable, maybe even have this sickening, nauseous feeling about enslavement, I'm here for you. I'm offering on Monday, the 6th of March, March 6th, a workshop, Freedom from Karmic Entanglements of Enslavement. And prior to that, on Friday, the 3rd of March, a special call, Debunking Enslavement, to gain awareness of the enslavement present within you. So I'm inviting you on Friday, on Monday, let's get done and over this with this enslavement. Let's get done and over with it. Yes. And yes, actually, let's take this opportunity while we're together right now. And it's always easier and safer to do things together. So take a moment to close your eyes if it is safe for you to do so. And get a sense of whether and how there is any enslavement energy running within you. Whether openly, so you would be aware of being in a situation or situations of enslavement, or covertly in more insidious ways. But now that it's brought to your attention, you find it resonates. Notice. Allow yourself to notice it. I can tell you, once you're on the other side of it, on the side of freedom and sovereignty reclaimed, you wish you had done it sooner, this radical liberation. But then again, it's all a matter of awareness. And once the awareness is there, which is part of my assignment to bring awareness to that issue, well, once we have that awareness and the ways and the tools and the support to take action, then we can be brave. We can be courageous, take a deep dive and do what needs to be done for our highest good and in service to the highest good of all. So this is your opportunity now. I hope to welcome you on March 6th. Freedom from karmic entanglements of unworthiness. Check the link in the description of the video. Later on, it will be available as an audio, which you will be able to use and schedule your healing, your liberation at your convenience. And that's wonderful too. But for now, live call, live workshop on March 6th. And yes, let's march together into freedom and sovereignty. Thank you, and many blessings to you.